Hi everyone, Dylan from Eurospace here. Today is an amazing day because I finally get to drive my favourite car of all time, the 812 GTS. You can keep your Enzos, you can keep your Carrera GTs. This to me represents, at least in my head, the greatest motoring experience that there is possibly that you can have. So without further ado, it's time to go and meet my hero. Let's go and see if this car is all it's cracked up to be. So this car is an atelier car, which means it's really highly spec'd. It's finished in Aluminio Lucido, which is gloss aluminium basically. And it's got this really lovely charcoal Alcantara and leather interior with the orange trimming. The best part for me though is it's got the TDF wheels, which to my eye will always be the best wheels you can possibly put on your front engine V12 Ferrari. And we've got them in stock, so if you need them, head over here somewhere. And it's also got the standard exhaust for now, but watch that space because we've got some exciting news coming. Now, as I said, this car is my hero, so has it lived up to expectations? Yes. Yes, a million times yes. This car is the greatest car I have ever driven. And it's so fast. It's so fast. The speed that this thing is capable of is more akin to that of an aircraft than a car. So much so that every time I really get on it, I'm half expecting vapor cones to form across the bonnet. It's just wild. The cornering is super planted. The braking is amazing, but the turning circle on this thing is atrocious. Even with the rear wheel steering, the 275 front section tyres make this thing turn more like a cruise ship than a car, and the bonnet is really long. You've got to be so prescient about when you pull into lanes and things like that. You've just got to be really switched on. The bottom line is that this thing is clearly a cruiser, but then what differentiates it from the Purosangue? Well, the first thing is the mass. I mean, the Purosangue, you're impressed with how it hides its mass, whereas the 812, you're never really aware that it's there. And that may seem like a strange distinction, but what I mean is, when you drive the Purosangue, you know that it is heavy. Whereas the 812 just never really reveals that it is a heavy car, particularly in a straight line, where this thing leaves the Purosangue for absolute dead. And then there's the utility. I mean, the Purosangue is wife, kids, dogs in the car across a continent, huge boot, 4 really comfortable seats. And that's not to say that this isn't also a comfortable continent crusher, but the boot is absolutely minuscule because of the roof. And the other thing is, it's a lot more leery than the Purosangue is. Now don't get me wrong, the Purosangue is a very sporty car, but this thing is just brutality distilled. And the Purosangue is really sure-footed because of its all-wheel drive system, so on a greasy day like last week, I had no issues hopping into it and taking it for a bit of a blast. On a greasy day, I wouldn't go within 10 feet of this car under any circumstances whatsoever. Because the Purosangue is a car that you can push, but the 812 is a car that pushes you. But is it a track weapon? Well, the simple answer is no. That's what the Pista's for. You know, the Pista is much more raw, much more unfiltered, much more direct. It's clearly a track car, but as a result, on the road, it feels like a caged animal. It only really comes alive at the absolute sharp end, 1010s, that you can't possibly get close to on the street. Whereas the 812 is a cruise missile. It's a car that's clearly been designed for the road. And as a result, it's not compromised and it is enjoyable everywhere. And then there's the engines, you know, V8, V12. It really becomes a debate of emotion versus efficiency. And, you know, they're both class leaders. That V8 is incredible. This V12 is also incredible. But for me, sound is such an important part of how a car communicates with the driver that this just has the edge. You know, the Pista sounds incredible with that Klein exhaust, but this thing is just angry Miles Davis strapped to the back of your car. I mean, listen to this. And the sad thing is that these are a dying breed, you know? We've been saying this for a long time, but the V12 lineage is at an end. There are no real plans for Ferrari to develop a replacement engine for this one. If they do, it will almost certainly be massively downsized and hybridized. The 812 and the 12C are the last of the guard. And it's sad because the front engine V12 bloodline is Ferrari's longest, starting all the way back at the 166 Inter, and it is just a greatest hits of Ferrari. You know, it's the 250 GTO, the 250 short wheelbase, 275 GTB, Daytona, the 599 GTO, the F12 TDF. Some of their greatest cars have been the front engine V12 stuff. And for that bloodline to come to an end is really sad. But then what next? Well, supposedly the new Ferrari EV is called the Passione, and that's in development. I'm not super excited for it, but I would say that what Hyundai has done with the N-Range, Ioniq 5N for example, it is possible to make an electric driver's car. And if anybody's going to do it right, it is Ferrari. But above all else, today I met my hero, and it was everything and more that I could ever have imagined it to be. And now I need to figure out how I can get one. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe over here, videos over here, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you very much.